comes out, and we cannot speak about it. Makes no sense.
I don't say poo.
I want to talk to you today about toilets.
We're not allowed to say shit, and that's part of the problem. We refuse the words because per year. Globally, that represents 550 million tons of waste which must be evacuated and treated. Excrement about. And yet, you probably don't know that we're experiencing a huge toilet revolution. 10 years ago, according to the World Health Organization, half the world's population doesn't have safe toilets. Nearly 700 million human beings defecate outside. And typhoid. It kills nearly 400,000 children each year. Bill Gates thought he could fix that by inventing a new kind of toilet. No, that's not the kind of toilet he's financing. In 2011, Bill Gates launched a major international competition called Reinvent the Toilet. Harmful pathogens from human waste and recover resources like energy, clean water, and nutrients. And almost without electricity. To see these toilets financed by Gates, we went to Switzerland. Separating fecal matter and urine in toilets in order to better recover all the good things contained in the liquid we produce.
Wanted to come up with this new sanitation system. And he actually consulted some friends, and then actually they came up with a system how it could look like, and you how to treat the excreta. And he actually sent this sketch, this idea out with this invitation to participate in the Reinvent the Toilet challenge. Sanitation or electrolysis, this process really fit nicely in this picture, in this plan.
Research on water and sanitation. They invent a lot of machines and systems to turn urine.
And this is the urine separating toilet, safe, produced by Laufen. This is the collection tank where we collect the urine from this building. This is the chemicals are removed with activated carbon. After pharmaceutical removal, the urine is stored here and later brought to the distiller for concentration.
At the outset, Earwag was going to call its fertilizer made from Swiss students' urine, Urina. An in-house communications manager said. That's why they chose Orin. To be clear, the Earwag Institute separates urine and fecal matter and separated. Number two, most of the nutrients are concentrated in the urine. And most of the bacteriological bomb One afternoon, we found ourselves at one of the biggest factories in the world.
Here you see the sludge produced at our facility. That pile is 2 days' worth. The sludge will be carbonized, which will make it hygienic. Then we can spread it on agri.
The fact that people like Bill Gates want to invent almost dry toilets which separate urine and fecal matter always brings us back to one question. Why did rich countries choose the flush toilet, which uses so much water, and a central sewer system terminating at a wastewater treatment plant? Until the mid-19th century, in major European cities, the most common custom was to empty your bucket out of the window. The streets were so filthy that the scientists of the day ended up wondering if the bad odors themselves In 1858, London was sweltering, and the level of the Thames, where all the excrement was dumped, was at its lowest. It took powerful people smelling the odor for the tide to turn. This event, called the Great Stink, was the spark which launched a vast undertaking. The city was gutted to create a centralized sewer system. Thousands of kilometers were dug at the same time in several major cities. Like in Paris, which had nearly 3,000 kilometers of sewer pipes. The height of efficiency when it came to making what you didn't want to see anymore disappear. Disgust for fecal matter all it can to evacuate excrement.
Every day we produce about 1 liter of urine. Few gallons of water to make the problem bigger and then go and filter it out. It must be crazy.
When you're man in Singapore who, at the age of 40, realized that all he had done was accumulate money. Based on the life expectancy of a Singaporean man, he calculated the revolution of sanitary facilities.
So when I was 3 or 4 years old, we live in a kampong, which is like a slum village, and we do not have toilet in our own house. The toilet is in a row of huts with squatting on the planks, and then you poop into a bucket. When the bucket truck comes to collect it and replace it, after a while, it is full of other people's and different colors, and then you have the sanitary pad with the blood, toilet paper, and the flies immediately come, and it is very, very disgusting and very disturbing.
Mr. Toilet put all his weight behind the battle against sanitation inequality. He wanted the whole world to take on the issue. He founded the World Toilet Organization, through which he talks about poops on every continent. Over the last 10 years, put sanitation at the center of global concerns. For NGOs, for the people who've always worked in development, it's a toilet moment they feared would never come.
The Bill Gates Foundation founded several studies and research labs in the field of sanitation to try to get someone outside the field showing interest. It's always good to have a different kind of actor in the development sector, someone who's able to challenge our in that kind of approach.
Je pense qu'on est vraiment sur une logique de complémentarité aussi, hein, dans ce.
Rich countries have been digging dry toilets in poor countries to bury waste. And they have a very hard time convincing states that it's a vital public health issue. All that was true until October the 2nd, 2014.
आपको लगता होगा की बात बताना ये कैसा प्रधानमंत्री है
Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi chose Gandhi's birthday to announce the launch of the biggest ever latrine building campaign. In his speech, he said that a nation like India, which sends its own satellites into space, can no longer allow its people to relieve themselves outside.
+4, +5 seconds.
The figures are stark. At the time, that is, 40% were Indian. That's not only due to the vastness of the country or its lack of infrastructure. The high prevalence of outdoor defecation in India is also due to a cultural problem. Dr. Patak created Sulabh International, which wants to put an end to a tradition that's lasted thousands of years in India, the one which involves leaving the handling of poop to the untouchable caste.
While I was a child, I touched an untouchable and forced me to swallow cow dung and to drink cow urine.
The ancient sacred texts of Hinduism required a man to defecate an arrow's flight from his home, and if there was unfortunately excrement very close to your home, it was considered absolutely unclean to take care of it. So the untouchables went from house to house to pick up your feces.
When we were hungry or thirsty, people gave us water or leftover food, but without ever touching us. Didn't do anything else. It's what we've always done, generation after generation. There has never been any other option for us. If we had tried to sell vegetables, no one would have bought them.
Dr. Patak, himself a and to break with tradition.
Master ji, 5 minutes.
Master ji, 10 minutes.
Ho gaya aaram, ab ho.
Hosts a school for children of untouchables. Everything is devoted to showing that excrement has value, that it can be used to make gas. Dr. Patak wants to convince his fellow citizens that toilets are a desirable space and that you should have one at home rather than defecating outdoors. He has even created a toilet museum. The business which generates the money for Dr. Patak's organization is public pay toilets, thousands of which are spread all over India, employing more than 35,000 people. He's even creating the Taj Mahal of public urinals. All this so that the Hindu culture of hating excrement no longer hinders toilet adoption. In this matter, Dr. Patak inspired Prime Minister Narendra Modi. The campaign is called Swachh Bharat, which means Clean India Mission. For its emblem, it uses Gandhi's little round glasses. It's an unprecedented construction effort. Tens of millions of rudimentary dry communications campaign. The Prime Minister was filmed sweeping streets and inaugurating toilets. A Bollywood movie was even made about a woman who doesn't want to marry her fiancé if he doesn't have home latrines.
आशिकों ने तो आशिकी के लिए ताजमहल बना दिया।
এই যে ভাই, কোথায় যাচ্ছেন?
Amitabh Bachchan, the Alain Delon of Mumbai, became the face of toilets.
ভেতরে যান। হ্যাঁ। শৌচালয় ব্যবহার করুন আর ভারতকে স্বচ্ছ করুন।
It's about converting a nation to defecating in a hole. On October the 2nd, 2019, on Gandhi's 150th birthday, Narendra Modi once again addressed his people and the world. He announced that no one defecated outside anymore.
60 महीने में 60 करोड़ से अधिक आबादी को ज्यादा शौचालयों का निर्माण, ये सुनकर विश्व अचंभित है।
So as not to upset the world's biggest democracy.
In India, the promise and the delivery are not the same. Today, out of the 110 million toilets, it is anybody's guess whether it is 50 million or 30 million or 80 million, we do not know. I think the only thing we can know is that the World Bank has promised to if they can prove that the toilet is being used, the 2 billion.
He chose to massively subsidize latrines, which often went unused. To this day in India, people are still defecating by the side of the road.
So we embarked on this adventure with the Gates Foundation to discover the code of toilet users in China, India, and other places. So we did some science together. The adventure lasted several years.
For months, Firmenishi's researchers travelled to collect fecal odours at the source, in latrines in India, Kenya, Uganda and South Africa. From this fetid round-the-world trip, they brought back a combination of 5 compounds which, cleverly balanced, could reproduce the exact odour of excrement. Yes. Assigned to the effluvia of feces.
Taste and smell are tied to emotions. So could we bring positive emotions to the poorest among us who lack access?
Technique produced a powder to throw in the bowl, a spray, and a hanging air freshener, and is already sold in several African and Asian countries. Where a startup is developing a new toilet bus model exclusively for women. That's a fundamental aspect revealed by this toilet revolution. Lack of access to sanitation has a much greater impact on women than on men. And Bérangère Magarinos-Rucha, in a world mostly made up of male engineers and technicians, is an activist for this cause.
The lack of access to toilets and hygiene for women is definitely the central issue in this conversation. For some women, it might mean getting up very early, before the rest of the family, waiting to go late at night. That's dangerous. We know it has led and hygiene problems, infections. That's why solutions like the buses are really great, because they have diaper stations. Assistance and support for women and their personal hygiene. You get none of that out in a field. In recent months, that can create major health problems.
Indian Ocean is playing a crucial role in the ongoing toilet revolution. Because of the endemic drought in South Africa, but also, more surprisingly, because of the end of apartheid.
My challenge was to prepare for the new South Africa. And as you know, in apartheid, you had a central city, which was mainly white people, surrounded by a sea of poverty, which was mainly African people, many of whom had no services. From 1996 until 2000, it was easy to motivate for money for water, because that was the big issue. But we big health problem, because then it was creating sewage, and the sewage was just running through the houses and causing problems. And then in 2002, politicians said we need sanitation.
With Neil MacLeod at the helm, the municipality of Durban has become a pioneer in the separation of urine and fecal matter to save water. It's also testing alternative solutions to the Western flush toilet and waterborne sewage system. A research group at the University Naturally, one day, Bill Gates came across Neil MacLeod, his pollution research group, and the crazy sanitation history of Durban.
Then we got that. 6 o'clock in the morning, there's somebody coming to see you, and you can't tell anybody. I thought it was going to be Bill Gates' father. And out walked Bill Gates. Hello, Neil. You know, what do you want to show me? Why you keep talking to my staff that they're in the wrong sector? And I said, well, you know, my answer to him was, I don't need your money, I need your influence. And we took him out. Chris Buckley came with me, and we showed him what we were doing and how our partnership was evolving. And he went back and he started investing in sanitation, and the rest is history. I mean, he started the Reinvent the Toilet Challenge, and we became the engineering field test center here for all.
So when the Reinvent the Toilet competition was launched by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Durban and its hundreds of shanty towns were chosen to test the competing toilets designed by Chinese, American, and Swiss universities. There were technical challenges, but there were sociological ones too. Among the 10 systems tested in the shanty towns of Durban, a Chinese company had a spectacular failure. In South Africa, you do. Very quickly, their brand new system broke down in Durban, and it took days to get it back in service.
We had a lot of sludge buildup, so those were things that we had to deal with on the ground and figure out how to solve. And ultimately, you know, it sort of came to the realization that the way that the process was designed from another country and bringing it into a developing country where the municipalities generally do not have the skills or the capacity to maintain and operate these. Are you able to maintain it? Are you able to operate it? Do you have the necessary manpower to do it?
Hello.
You're going to see the future.
Bill Gates has a major technological bent. You can't really reproach him for that. It's that bent which has made him one of the richest men in the world, from selling computer operating systems to most of us. When he decided to reinvent the toilet so that it could be used which work for him are developing chemical solutions, reactors to destroy the bacteria in fecal matter, electrolysis-based treatment walls. Their toilets end up looking like spaceships.
The inject the valve closes and the reaction occurs. It's combustion. The fecal matter is then heated to between
I think originally, Bill Gates was thinking in this way. He told us when he was young, to be able only to compute a little bit of information. Today, the computing power on our cell phone is long ago. Therefore, his belief is when technology can be introduced, then everything becomes smaller and smaller. The only difference between the computer and the is that the computer is in bytes, and you can just keep on growing the bytes without growing the size. Whereas the poop is in atoms. You cannot digitize poop. You will always physically have that 200 grams every time.
Well, I brought a little exhibit here. This is a container of human feces. I'm famous that once in a speech I released mosquitoes. This we're going to keep in the jar. But, you know, I think even though it's very stark, it's good to be reminded particles, 20 billion Shigella bacteria, and 100,000 parasitic worm eggs, which you've got a little animation.
On the podium at his conference at the Reinvented Toilet Expo in Beijing, the billionaire proved that he's a master of communications. He achieved the unthinkable, putting toilets on the global agenda. He had also successfully imposed a new narrative, that excrement can be profitable if it's at the heart of new industries which produce energy and fertilizers. The Toilet Board Coalition was built on the dream of being able to transform poor people's poop into is that the collection of fecal matter in poor countries will be enough to create sufficient energy, like biogas or electricity, to finance the whole sanitation system. In Beijing, everything seemed to be going great. The universities were proudly presenting their new toilet solutions. And Bill Gates announced that the technologies that his foundation had financed were ready to be adopted by the market.
Opportunity that at some point is getting by without any sort of philanthropic grant money, that it really just evolves into companies competing to provide the best product using these new paradigms.
The hyper-technological solutions advocated by Bill Gates are having a hard time finding a foothold in the challenge our waste management. It was an afternoon like any other at biologist Philippe Morier-Genou's home in a village in the Swiss Alpine foothills. There, he's testing experimental toilet models which use nature, particularly
On a complètement perdu contact avec
We've completely lost touch with the sight and proximity of our excrement.
la proximité de nos
It's gone. We don't know what happens to it. There are no risks, there's no odors. When you see a field big enough to feed a cow throughout of earthworms right there under its feet. It's the earthworms that are hard at work. Worms are bio. Their long intestines. Even more so than us, their guts packed in a thin skin. They're even better bioreactors than we are. So much so that this fecal matter, inhabited and colonized by mushrooms and earthworms, becomes edible again for worms. They eat what they excrete, 4 times or 5 times.
Philippe Morier-Genoux uses earthworms in his homemade toilets to kill bacteria and render the fecal matter harmless. He relieves himself in a You might think that this Professor Calculus of the restroom, this earthworm fanatic, isn't a very serious person, and that he's not going to solve the global toilet problem. Follow him to Geneva. Of the city. Its residents decided to develop a more ecological sanitation system which could re-inject wastewater into very low-volume flush toilets. So they called Philippe Morier-Genoux, who rounded up his worms.
People, then for 300. And then?
Buildings with 300 people would be pretty good. After that, the next thing, the neighborhood. You could do this in a whole neighborhood. Look at these lovely earthworms. A nice big bunch of them.
It's a big pool in the building's courtyard, full of straw, excrement and earthworms. A giant filter which makes it possible to treat organic matter and even a lot of chemicals. Dangerous, purifying it. The compost can then safely be used to fertilize the gardens. It doesn't smell bad. At most, there's a slight smell of humus wafting in the pit.
There is maintenance, right? If it's in a city, don't you have to take some
formed? Here we have the decomposition of all the components, of all the sugar polymers, into carbon dioxide and water.
Résiduels, en fait, ils partent avec l'excès d'eau en solution.
When you see this hyper-modern building in central Geneva, it's worms on clean-up duty in the courtyard.
Our goal is to get water that's cleaner than what comes out of the treatment plant. At least as clean, but cleaner if possible. That's not hard to achieve because water from treatment plants isn't very clean. It's decanted and rapidly digested through injecting oxygen, which helps develop bacteria that consume residual.
We're at the first stage of wastewater treatment. This involves removing the large waste that comes in from the sewers. We find tree branches, sanitary wipes, all kinds of waste. It's vital that we remove it from the water before it gets treated.
At first, you focus on the about something else entirely. This sanitation revolution challenges our entire waste management system because all sorts of things end
water. It's the water generated by our household activities, toilet water, gray water from our daily activities. It's also the water used for artisanal and industrial purposes. Lastly, it's rainwater, which washes the air and the city. We're at the activated sludge treatment stage. It removes nitrogen and phosphorus from the water. How do we do it? Again,
Of course, in addition to feces, wastewater carries a whole bunch of chemical products called micropollutants, and they're much harder to treat.
the micropollutants in our sludge, and this is the problem, come from many different sources, ourselves in particular. What you were saying is quite right. When we go about our business, when we're washing the dishes, etc., those activities lead us, without really realizing it, to use many compounds, many.
Get to clean the bathroom bowl.
Stuck with the nastiest job in the house? Make it vanish.
Vanish?
Total Action Vanish. Try it.
It's true that for decades, we were encouraged to throw as many chemicals as possible into our toilet bowls to eradicate the slightest bacterium.
Worse as humankind invents new compounds and produces new compounds without having studied the harm they might do to human health and the environment. We're creating an increasingly serious problem. Not only are these synthetic compounds not removed in treatment plants, they also accumulate in places where we really don't want them to.
En plus, elles vont s'accumuler à des endroits où on ne voudrait pas du tout qu'elles.
We have to give sanitary facilities to those who don't yet have any. It's also about giving developing countries small treatment plants to avoid investing colossal
especially in South Africa, where we don't have the space, or I think the facilities to put in more big, large, central. And also environmentally, to have on-site sanitation treatment or decentralized treatment systems. Rather than putting in extensive, piping, etc., to take everything to a central place. It's much better to treat it at source. And if you can take that and produce something useful out of it, that's even better.
Also solve our first world problems. Decentralization, treatment in each neighborhood or each residence could enable us to better control what we release into nature. And maybe it would make us more responsible.
For on-site treatment, decentralized treatment, we can really improve the overall sanitation system. There will always be a place for centralized systems, definitely. We also have to rethink the water use. So now we have the water supply, and it's such a big achievement that we have fresh water and drinking water supplied by pipes. But do we really need drinking water for toilet flushing? And do we really need actually recycle water? So in large buildings, we can treat the gray water, so that's the water from the bathroom and from the kitchen, not the toilet water. We can actually treat it rather easily to reuse it for toilet flushing. We should do that. We should explore new options.
So it's not just about the little boys or little girls' room. For the last 10 years, this broad rethink of the way in which we manage our most basic waste is a definite point of no return. Around the world, the vast majority of wastewater, more than 80%, goes untreated. Oceans, to excessive algae growth, and to the asphyxiation of the sea floor. The way in which we manage our excrement isn't insignificant. It's the very heart of life. Fecal matter and urine have always fed the ground which feeds us. Far away as possible, we replaced natural fertilizers with chemical fertilizers.
Au moment
took out of it because we started living in cities, and it was too costly to return to the earth the things which should be returned to the earth. We created instability.
End up with earthworms at home to eat our excrement. But this idea that feces should return to the ground, that we can't content ourselves with getting rid of these substances, be the foundation for the launch of the upcoming toilet revolution.
They all share a belief in peaceful coexistence. In Bussy-Saint-Georges, near Paris, this is nothing unusual. Each of the world's major religions has its own place of worship here. It's a unique place of exchange, hosting many interreligious services.
Focus on Europe in 30 minutes on DW.
They were underestimated and discriminated against. India. What is the secret to their success? What hurdles did they overcome? And what do they need to achieve true equality?
Made in Germany in 90 minutes.